And then I had to drive with her in silence for like, I don't know, 45 kilometers just with shit in my pants.
That's love. Hey guys, before we start this episode, a big thanks to our major sponsor for the last couple of years, Southern Slugs. Speaking of the Southern Slugs, there's a great event happening in October this year in Croatia. The Australian men's and women's teams are heading over there to take on the Croatian national teams. The tour will be headlined by the one and only Kevin Sheedy, who'll be coaching both teams. Brent Harvey and Isaac Smith, speaking of legends, well, they'll be playing for the national men's team and doing school coaching clinics as well. How good is that? 2 dates to the 7th to the 15th of October. Also available are 6 nights cruising the Croatian coast on a 5-star boat or taking the Oktoberfest in Munich, Germany. I've done that before and it's unbelievable. So it's all thanks to Aussie Rules Global taking the game to the world. Head over to the Southern Slugs Facebook page for more details. So welcome once again,
Thanks
Jarryd
for having
Goundrey
me.
to Comedy Legends with Bevo.
It's the Adelaide Fringe tradition now.
It is, isn't it?
I look forward to 20 years down the line when we both just slowly age terribly and they can make a clip of us of just the legends of Bevo's just slowly, we just kind of die over the years.
My logo, I'll either be completely bald or might have had a hair transplant, so I might look a bit like that.
Very out of date. It's very out of date.
I cop it all the time about my logo, trust me. So I'm still hoping that one day I can afford to get a hair transplant.
250 episodes? Is that what was that?
Pushing towards that.
It's amazing in the podcast world, man. Congratulations.
And congratulations to you, because it's all about you today, Jazza. You made a big call just over 12 months ago to go full-time as a comedian. You rented a house with your lovely partner, Hannah, we'll talk about in a moment, who's doing great things as well in comedy. But tell us about taking that plunge and how you made a decision and what it was like as well.
Well, I lost all my money just before the pandemic. I saved up money to go full-time as comedy. And then over the course of the Melbourne pandemic, I lost all of my life savings, which sucks. When you work hard and you go broke, it sucks. You know, if you want to sit around and smoke bongs and you don't want to work, it's cool. But if you work really hard and grind. At the time, before that, I was working in a cafe. So I used to get up at 5:30 in the morning. I used to write for an hour. Then I used to go to the cafe and then I'd try those jokes on all the chefs because they were all twisted. Then I'd go have a sleep in a park. Then I'd go out and do comedy. I did that for years until I figured out I could escape, make my prison escape, right, from my day job. So I saved up all my money. Pandemic came and I was just completely took all of my time, energy and cash to get through that afloat. So then when it was time to go again, I said, let's do this. Like, we don't have any backup. We don't have any money. Let's do it this way. And moved out of our place, put our things into storage, and then just started house sitting rich people's houses for small amounts of money, paying no bills, bought a camper van, started traveling when there was gigs on, they're like, there's gigs in Cairns. All right, let's find 16 places along the way and just do shows until we get there, and traveled to 45 different places last year and did around 100 shows.
Wow.
Just making just enough money to survive and just building something along the road. It's been incredible.
Sensational. Congratulations. And your first national tour as well.
Weird, hey? As a nobody. It's fantastic. Going to some crazy places too. So we did all the big hubs and it was awesome to have these big shows. I did my biggest show in Townsville, 125 people, which was amazing. Did 90 people in Cairns the night after. I did 75 in Canberra. All of these people just coming out. I've never been to these places. They're coming out to watch me, which is incredible. But then along the way, decided to pick a few little places to do shows. So we did a gig in a town that had a population of 31.
Wow.
And 52 people came. Because they happened to have some caravanners there that night. So the population swelled.
31 people, where was that?
So the town's barely on a map and it's called Nandali.
Right.
And they're wheat farmers. Their town consists of a post office and a pub. And I did the gig at the pub. And then I own a share of that pub now too.
That's incredible.
So the story goes, so I went there a year prior to that. So Nandali in the middle of nowhere. I guess the next closest place is Bendigo, potentially. And a few years ago, the pub owner died. And the pub just went empty. And the whole town went, who wants to buy the pub? And they go, no one wants to buy the pub. So they said, all right, we'll all buy the pub. And we'll just make it a community drinking hole. And then we can just sell shares of the pub. So then the year prior to that, I did some random gig out there. And I was talking to the locals about how the public pub buying share system works. And I was like, how much is a share of the pub? And they're like, it's this much. And I was like, that's exactly what I'm getting paid tonight. I said, don't pay me. Just give me a share of the pub. And they're like, yeah, done. So now I'm a pub owner. And that was the pub that I'd started the Australian tour at.
That is amazing.
I said, I'm going to do it at my pub because I know all the locals. And then that was good. So shout out to Nandali there. They're cool.
You must have met some amazing characters in that time. Tell us about some of those.
It's funny how everyone in this country is incredible. It's just amazing to see how many types of white people there are everywhere. No, it's great. I mean, I was just last week I finished that tour in Darwin, and I always thought Darwin maybe a bit bogany, maybe a bit whatever, but Darwin rocks, and it's like super cultured, multicultural, packed out to the shows. Added another show because they, enough people wanted to come. People up there, they just do what they want. It's hot. They know it. They drink. This guy described it to me out the front of the show. He said, in Darwin, he goes, you want to drive a boat? You don't need a license. You want to get pissed and drive it? Fucking do what you want. The cops don't give a shit. You want to ride a bike with no helmet? Who cares? It's like, they go, if you hit your missus in a pub, everyone will bash you. It's just a good place. Like, it's just everyone just regulates each other in that way. And I don't think I would go to these places if it wasn't for comedy or making that leap to do that thing. And to make that decision of being like, I don't know if this is going to work, but I'm willing to find out. And I could fail. And I could fail publicly. It's nothing probably more embarrassing than going, hey, I'm a professional comedian and I'm touring Australia, and no one comes. And I was so grateful that the work that I put in meant that 125 people came in towns, like all of these things. And, Albury, sold our show in Albury, sold our show in Wagga Wagga. Like, what is this? Like, do you know what I mean? It's really humbling. Yes, it's special. It's so nice.
I think it's actually a credit to you and all the hard work that you put in with your social media, Jazza, and obviously, your TikTok, and every time I put on or go on the socials these days, your face comes up, and it's like, it's amazing, and just put in hours and hours of work. I think a really good example, we were talking off air before, you're here for the Adelaide Fringe, which we'll talk about in a moment, but you didn't have to do any advertising, and you're still getting sellouts to your shows, which is just brilliant.
I thought I'd take a risk this year and not advertise my show heavily. As in, usually if you're an independent artist, which most artists are, you will pay hundreds and hundreds of dollars to advertise your show, mainly through Facebook ads, Instagram ads. People hand out flyers. You can hire people to hand out flyers. You got to print those flyers. You got to put up posters. Poster space is a real estate. And you spend hundreds of dollars to just go, I'm here. Please come. And sometimes people don't come. And this year I went, I'll just see what happens. I said, I'm just going to tell the people that follow me. I said, I'm coming. You can come along. And I'll put it out pretty regularly. And it's the first time that people come. They just come in.
It's so good.
Yeah, they're cool.
Yeah.
And it's once again, it's nice. So risk. You got to take risk to figure it out.
And social media, again, there's a lot of negativity towards it, but it's a great example of how you can use it for a positive.
Yeah. It's all technology has that. I mean, every time there's the same technology that allows me to just turn on my phone to say something and potentially millions of people can just see it, is the same technology that people can bully people and stuff. So it's not the technology that's bad. Humans are always bad. You just got to have some responsibility with what's going on. And the downside of being so consistent and building a following on social media is like, people just lash out at you sometimes as well. And it's been really awesome for me to be able to build that thick skin.
Yeah.
And just, I've never understood what people get out of this, but I'll get a message maybe once every 4 days and it says, hey, just watch your video. You suck. And I just go, that's so wicked. Like, this guy's on the toilet like, I'm going to tell that guy. And he can just talk to me. I got death threat. Got my first death threat, which is always...
That's scary.
Nah, well, it was a guy from the Middle East being like, we know where you are. We're going to come and cut your head off.
Oh, jeepers.
And I'm like, as long as you buy a ticket. I don't really care what you do, like the show's for everyone. But
and what was his response to that?
Didn't get back, the coward. So I'm still waiting. I mean, my whole schedule's online. So I'm like, hey, I'm going to be here. I'm doing this pub and doing this stuff at this time. This is how you get the tickets, and that sort of stuff. So if they want me, come get me. But it was nice to get like a death threat, and then I actually just went, this doesn't bother. That's fine.
Yeah.
I talked to a few people and they're like, oh, that means you're doing well.
I
And I go, oh, really? They go,
spoke to
"Yeah."
Tahir about that a couple of years ago, who I'm sure you know well, another great comedian, and he said he actually thrives on that sort of stuff as well, like the keyboard warriors, and it's all about how you handle it.
Yeah. Yeah, I like it. It's nice because I don't do that. And I see heaps of stuff on the internet that I think is stupid, but I've never once gone, do you know what? I'm going to comment this or send a message to that person. So those people are just going through something and they might need to do that. Some people are just in it for the sport. This guy put a comment on my thing and it said, so I have an eye condition where my eyes are always red. So people will always comment on that and tease me about it. And this guy commented and he said, nice pink eye. And I was looking at it and I was like, nah, I'll get him. And I said, yeah, no worries, your mum doesn't wipe her ass. And then he sent me a message and he goes, dude, that was so funny. And I'm like, this guy, he's just a troll for fun. And I was like, no worries, brother. And then we followed each other. And I was like,
brilliant.
Yeah, right. And I'm like, yeah, cool. And he was just like, he was like, I'm so glad you got back to me. Like, I've been watching for a while. I'm just like, yeah, cool, man. Like, no worries. Next time we're in your town, just come see me. So bonding. Yeah. Hopefully we can bond.
And you went around Australia trying different vanilla slices as well because you've got a passion. Tell us about that.
So figured out that I couldn't eat dairy. Thought if John Farnham can go on a farewell tour, I can go on a farewell tour of bakeries. That was kind of something that went a little bit weirdly viral in a way where that people were rocking up to my shows with vanilla slices. And like they'd give it to me and I'm like, this thing's room temperature, I'm not eating that, right? And they're like, thank you, we've got this one. And someone made me one. Someone made me a vegan one or a non-dairy one.
Wow.
So you got to eat it in front of them, which is weird. Yeah. So you're after a show, you're sweaty, you've just performed, you've got so much adrenaline pumping through your veins, you're like, I'm not hungry. And they're like, here, this is for you. And you're like, oh, that's great, thank you very much. And it all came crashing down somewhere between Brisbane and Townsville. I was driving and I shit my pants in the car.
Literally.
And I just went for a fart. My partner's in the next to me. And I went, God damn it. And she goes, what, looking for kangaroos? And I said, no, this is fucked. I'm working my ass off and this is what's going on. And she's like, we got a good crowd coming into the next one. I'm like, no, fuck this. I'm just going off because I felt the warmth immediately. And those little like toilets that you're in a highway in the country are kind of everywhere until you need one.
Yes.
And then I had to drive with her in silence for like, I don't know, 45 kilometers just with shit in my pants.
That's love.
And like, I'm talking North Queensland heat.
Oh.
And I was like, I've really committed to this bit. This is, so I had my last vanilla slice and I didn't complete the journey.
There's nothing worse than that feeling. Like,
and shitting yourself?
Yeah, because I went for a run. I went for a run the other day and it's just been a couple of occasions recently, and the most recent time was having Indian on a Friday night. They're running on the Saturday morning.
Yeah.
And like, I was with a mate of mine, and we ran the first 5Ks, and I was like struggling, and I was like, mate, sorry, I've got to go. And luckily there was a toilet there because I just rushed as fast as I could. But it's just that it's a horrible feeling. So
it's terrible. Yeah. And the people that we house sit now, sometimes they'll be like, we'll leave a vanilla slice in the fridge for me because we're talking about this off camera, but they'll Google me before we do like a house sit.
Yeah.
And they'll be like, oh, he's a vanilla slice boy. We'll put one in the fridge for him. House sitting's interesting. Looking after pets is interesting because you're kind of like the substitute teacher. Right? So you come in and the dog's like, we're gonna fuck you up, bro. They're like, he loves a walk and he's like, I ain't walking nowhere. I'm just like, ugh. They test you and that sort of things. And I figured out along the way that people who, when you look after their pets, they want the dog to like you, but they don't want the dog to love you more than they love them.
Right.
So sometimes people will go overseas, and this one lady, she said the cat doesn't like anyone. And we're like, okay. About 2 days later, the cat's like just sitting on our head and just been like, yeah, like you're the best thing I've ever seen. So we're sending like pictures to the lady being like, don't know what you're on about, bro. And then she got kind of like pissed off or like jealous or whatever. And yeah, I mean, it turns out the cat's probably just like, I know you're a cunt. So what can I say? Moira's an asshole.
Yeah, fair enough.
Yeah.
And your show in Adelaide, what's it all about, Jazzo? What's the material about for this show?
It's interesting when you do shows. I figure like comedy sometimes it's like music where I feel like if a band releases an album, do they ever know if they've got another album in them? Or was that some bands just release one album and then they go, shit, we didn't make up anything else. That was all we had. And it's scary going, can I keep doing this? Can I keep making up new, fresh, original ideas? Changing my entire life also changed my entire sort of like creativity and perspective. So being on the road, you see different things, you do all that sort of, like you have a different, it's like a holiday. A change is as good as a holiday. Just been sort of reflecting on it a little bit and talk about getting a little bit older and how robots are taking all of our jobs. I'm all cool for that. They're not taking my job. If a robot can eat a vanilla slice and shit itself on the highway, then he can have it. And I'm not worried about that at all. A lot of people are like, robots are coming for you. But it's like, if you're genuinely, the human experience is so special if you can just share that. I think comedians will be the last one to go. So it's about that, and just hope I can keep doing it. Hope I can keep making up ideas. Does that make sense? It's scary.
You're creative,
it's terrifying.
You're creative, you're smart, and you've always got great ideas. So no, I think you'll go well.
Yeah, but you don't know, like, you're the one that's making them up. So you're like, will they like it? Because in my head, everything's great. You can you laugh at, you find what you find's funny, but it's not about what I find funny. It's like, I got to portray that to an audience. Does that make sense?
What about shows the last 12 months as well that have bombed?
Haven't had one, which is great.
You haven't?
No.
Yeah, or a joke you've told where the audience hasn't enjoyed it.
Two things. I've had two gigs, right? One is like the environment really matters, because I did a show in Wagga Wagga in the middle of winter. It gets about -1 degrees there. And we're in a brewery and the heater was amazing and it was just cozy. It was great. Before the show starts, the lady goes, here are all the light switches. No worries. So you hit the lights before you go on the show. So I go on there, hit all of the light switches down. And then I get on stage for like 20 minutes. It's like I'm killing, I'm like boom, boom, boom. And then just the audience just slowly stop.
Oh.
And in the process of turning the lights off, I'd also turned the heater off. And the place went from being like a cozy 26, 27 degrees of everyone in there, left their coats in the coat rack, to turning into a shed, because we're in a shed. And the whole audience just went, and then I'm on stage and I'm like, usually you've seen me on stage, I'm pretty sweaty and I get right into it. Then I'm like, a bit cold. And and it's not that they didn't want to laugh, they just couldn't. And I just froze them to death. And I realized what happened. And then I was like, I froze my audience to death. That was that one. The second one is, so I started telling some military stories on TikTok, right? And somebody let me know that apparently there's someone from ASIO who has to watch my stuff.
Oh. Because
I'm talking about the military, right? They got to be like, is this guy telling government secrets or not? So there's someone at someone's desk at ASIO. They just got to watch my TikTok. I'm happy for the views, just quietly. Got hit out by the military. They sent me something and they're like, hey, just watch what you're doing. And I went, nah. And then the second thing that they reached out was, they said, do you want to do this gig? And I said, love that. I love to do a gig. And they go, all right, we've got this with this ball that we do every year in Melbourne. It's in the Grand Ballroom. Would you like to do 20 minutes of comedy to all of a couple of politicians? It's black tie, hundreds of people, all of the heads of all of the government organizations and the RSLs and all this sort of stuff. And I go, fucking daddy, we've made it. I'm like, here's big payday. Like we've been struggling. And I said, awesome. I said, cool. How much will you pay me? And they said, oh, nothing. I said, all right, I'll do it. And then they got in touch with my head of the RSL, and he organized me to do some comedy there. And it's like a very boring event, like this sort of event.
Oh no.
And they go, we can't pay you, but you can drink as much as you want. And I said, all right, I will. And just got hammered for a couple of hours before. Just hammered. And I'm just about to go on stage. And before I go on stage, the head of my RSL goes, hey, Goundrey, do you reckon you could like tease the Department of Veterans Affairs? If you don't know what that is, they pretty much look after the mental welfare of soldiers after they get out. And they're currently in a royal commission into veteran suicide.
Yeah.
And I went, mate, I'm on in like 2 minutes. I said, I don't have any material about DVA. And he goes, can you make something up? And I went, we'll see. And then I just went on stage like, hey, And then they're like, this is very much, there's people, speakers up there being like, and the future of veterans is fucking boring, right? And then they're like, anyway, here's the comedian. So everyone's like clapping. And I'm like, hey guys, how you going? And they're like, good. I'm like, who is from the army? And then like 1/3 of the room goes like, yay. And I'm like, you're a bunch of shit cunts. And then everyone just laughed. And I was like, all right, we're on here. Then I said, who is from the Navy? And then the other third of the room went, hey. And I'm like, I'm surprised you can make any noise with dicks in your mouths. Which murdered the place. Everyone was like, yeah, this guy gets it. He's having some entertainment. And then I said, who is from the Air Force? And then like one of them went, whoa. And they're like renowned for not doing any work and like sleeping in really good conditions. So we're in the grand hall ballroom. And I said, thanks guys for donating your barracks. And then everyone was like, you guys are shit. Then I'm like, cool, I'm on a roll here. And I said, either way, who here's from the Department of Veterans Affairs? And then like one table goes, hey. And I go, what an honor it is to have the branch of the military here with the most kills. Fucking leveled the place. Absolutely trashed the joint. Like everyone in the soldiers like, you can't fucking joke about that. The army soldiers are like, yeah, falling off their chair. The old people in the back are like, nah, who is this kid? Like, fucking get him out of here. The politicians are like, whoa. And then I had like, that's how I started doing my 20-minute set. And then I had 19 more minutes of just being like, anyway, so I'm from Perth or whatever. And then I like told that story online and it kind of went like military famous.
Yeah.
And I got 1,000 followers that day.
Wow.
And like messages of people being like, dude, that joke about the Department of Veteran Affairs was wicked. And I was like, no worries. And then I was doing this charity gig in Townsville and there was a photographer there from the military and he's like taking a picture of me and he's like, oh, you're that motherfucker that told that joke about the Department of Veterans Affairs. And I'm like, yeah, that's right. And he goes, dude, I work at the big headquarters, like the army headquarters, where like officers of such a high rank that I've never seen are there. And he goes, I walked into work one day and he goes, there was a brigadier, which is a huge rank, and 12 other high ranking officers gathered around one phone. And I was like, go on. And he goes, they were all watching you tell this joke. And I was like, fuck. I was like, how'd it go? And he goes, crushed. And I was like, yeah, buddy. So
that's heavy.
Hopefully I've gone all the way to the top now.
Yeah.
And that spy that has to watch me at ASIO is coming to the show sometime.
I'll let you in a little
ticket.
secret, Jazza. I used to work at Department of Veteran Affairs as well. One of the worst jobs I've ever had in my life. It was,
yeah, right. So you're to blame.
It was horrendous. I get called to the office all the time for being a naughty boy for I don't know why.
What did you do?
I was working in a call centre, but you deal with some incredible people. But you're right on a serious note, though. It's pretty depressing at times as well, hearing some of these like young veterans and just what they're going through post, being part of the army or navy or whatever it is. And the
DVA was set up
PTSD,
to help them, and it just made lots of paperwork. And essentially, what happened is they set up. I'm going to round this up very quickly, like this very layman terms, but they set it up when there was no war, like in the gap between sort of Vietnam, right? And then East Timor, Iraq, Afghanistan, all of these things kicked off and they didn't increase it, but they increased the tempo by like tenfold, right?
Yeah.
So then you have like this bottleneck of all these veterans being like, I need help. And they're like, we've got a wait list of years. And when you have mental health problems, you don't have years to get back to get help. And the old stat, not the old stat, the stat is from 1999 onwards, 41 Australian soldiers have been killed in active service. And the same amount of people that have committed suicide in that time is over 1,600.
Wow, that's
so to
staggering.
just put that in perspective about how mental health is such a challenge for the veteran community, and to put that in perspective of how many people have just died in combat.
Yeah.
So the more, like, I don't know what percentage that is. A huge percentage
That's
more
huge.
of it have taken their lives from being in that environment as opposed to fighting it.
And it's a kudos to you that you've been a part of it and then you've turned things around now with your comedy. So
yeah, well, I mean, the byproduct of doing the TikTok content and making the thing and having the people come to the shows is, and I didn't foresee this or want it, nor do I still want it. It is a burden sometimes, but you get people that send me messages quite often and they go, I'm going through a real tough time and I love your videos.
Oh, that's great.
And I'm like, I don't know what to do with this, but like, thank you. I hope that
It must make you
works out
pretty
for you.
emotional as well.
Pressure
Yeah.
is probably the main one. I mean, I don't Yeah, I mean, I'm not qualified for that. I don't know. I mean, I'm happy that that's helping.
Yeah.
I don't know what to do with it or how to target that and do more. That's not my role. I'm just trying to be funny. But
So you're not sure in terms of what they can do to make things better, because those stats are quite staggering.
yeah, I guess I'm just a fool.
Yeah.
But I've become the poster guy for that, which has been unexpected, but also really rewarding and probably one of the greatest things that's ever happened in my life. But also like, yeah, it's been an eye opener to leave an organization and then to be thought to be done with it, and now be the guy that a lot of young people associate with it is very interesting.
Yeah.
Army cadets, the children that do it, I go to their bases now and they go, can you come speak to us? And I'm like, I'm just and they're like, he's the guy from TikTok. You're the army guy from TikTok. So can you come? And so I just go there and talk to the kids and I'm like, hey, just look after yourselves and look out for each other and that sort of thing. And if I'm ever touring around, I've got a night off, I get probably 100 requests, for the year, but I can only sort of do, because I work at night when they are generally parading. Sometimes I do a little detour and go to a country one and stuff. Like if you have your cadet night on a Tuesday and I rock up, so that's quite nice. And the last one I went to, which is a couple of weeks ago, the lady who organised it was the adult, and she came to the show and she said, can you come to the cadet base? And I was like, sure. And she goes, I'm not going to tell the kids just in case you get busy. And I said, no, sweat. She goes, I said, I'll come though, I'm free. And drove in there, and then they were all in a classroom, and then I was like, hey, and they were like, it's you, and then they were happy to see me, and it just feels strange.
That's something you should be so proud of, though, that all that hard work's paying off now for you.
Yeah, I just know I feel pressure. I don't want them to do something. I know how difficult it is to be in the military, and I know it's not for everyone, and I know that people struggle with it afterwards. And I'm like, some people have sent me messages. They're like, I'm joining the army because I watched all your videos, and I'm like, just make sure you're all right, bro. Like don't do it because of me. Do it because of you. You know what I mean?
Yeah, well said.
So pressure is the thing, but also hope and cool. But also Department of Defense, if you're watching, fucking pay me some money. I'm busting recruiting up. These kids are like, I'm joining the army. Kick back.
Yeah, I reckon.
Give it to me.
Commission to Jazza for sure.
Dude,
yeah.
Bankroll me.
Yeah.
All I want is the price of one missile. Because I've been on exercises where sometimes they shoot a missile and it doesn't go off. All I'm saying is just give me the missile. One missile, it's a drop in the ocean for the military. All I want is the price of one missile.
Fair enough.
That's fair enough, yeah.
Hey, before we wind things up, you're part of the Melbourne Comedy Festival as well with a couple of other comedians, and that's gone really well in terms of your ticket sales too.
Great. I brought some people on for this this time. So I've got two openers that essentially they'll do 15 minutes, then I'll do 30 minutes. And that's their first comedy festival. And we were talking, they didn't know what to do, and I said, hey, let's just do a show together. Looking forward to I love Melbourne. It's kind of like the grand final. And it's also, just after that is when I have like the first holidays for the year. So when you finish Perth Festival, Darwin, Adelaide, Melbourne, which goes from January to April, then I just chill out and just fucking relax.
Don't blame you.
Binge maths.
Oh no.
All my dirty little I'm like, what can I catch up on? I'm just like whack, 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 and just not write anything, sit around in my jocks, be uncreative, and just try and think. I say that, and then like day two, I'm like, I want to make a video about this.
Yeah, and you're like back on TikTok again.
That's it. So it's a vicious cycle.
Yeah. And also, Hannah, she's got her first show, your lovely partner.
It's cool watching her flourish like that.
Yeah.
And I always think the best shows are about when they're about something a bit real. And if you are talking about sort of like, will robots come and take our jobs? Will AI be creative? It's like, yeah, it can do a lot of amazing things, but it can't tell a story that is unbelievable. That when you hear a good story, like you go, whoa, you won't believe that happened. And that's where I think the beauty is. And Hannah's doing a show about all the times that she's been stalked in her life, which is something that as men in this room, I just don't think we really get, like what it feels like to be stalked. I don't understand that emotion and fear and worry and all of these things. And look who's stalking now. She's doing that show, and I can't wait for her. It's good. And we're both in stress mode, which is funny because we're just like, and then we're like, but we've got each other, but we're also like, sometimes one's stressed, which stresses the other. And it's like, but it's nice to be there for each other. It's her first show, and I remember my first show. So I'm giving her all this advice that I never took. I'm like, just relax, people will buy tickets. But really at the time I was like, and so I'm just a big hypocrite, but I think she's going to be amazing.
And how can we follow you both on socials?
It's at Jarryd Goundrey on everything. And the beauty of doing enough stuff online is now you can just put it into Google and it just comes up for me. So you just Google my name, I'm on there.
And Hannah
Things
Sainty?
are happening. Hannah Sainty, yeah. So go, now that we've toured, I'll be touring everywhere again every year from now on.
Jarryd Goundrey, absolute pleasure as always, mate.
Thanks, mate.
Thank you.